Fun Kids Science Weekly with the book series Artisans, packed with magical powers and featuring an epic battle with the Sandman, talking cats and much, much more.
Hello Explorer, welcome along to the smartest show in the solar system and, well, probably beyond. It's time to explore all the science secrets stuffed all over the universe in a brand new Fun Kids Science Weekly. My name is Dan, thank you for being there. Nice to chat again. This is the place for the curious and adventurous. And this week, we'll blast off to find the hottest spot in the galaxy.
The most massive stars at the end of their life, they will end their life with spectacular explosions called supernovae. And during these explosions, temperatures can literally become astronomically high.
And in Battle of the Sciences, we're unwrapping the mystery of mummies and exploring what's inside your body with Michelle's spear.
People were grinding up mummies. They were usually used ground. That seems to be the kind of common theme. And they were taking them as medicine. You've got bones that are stronger than reinforced concrete. You've got the fact that your heart beats 100,000 times a day. You've got the fact that your brain is more active at night than it is during the day.
So strap in, it's time to explore in a brand new Fun Kids Science Weekly. Let's start with your science in the news. This week, we've heard a large asteroid's chances of hitting the moon have doubled. This is the asteroid 2024 YR4, and it has a tiny chance of hitting Earth in 2032. Very small. NASA say it's 0.004%, which means, what, 4 times in 100,000 attempts it would hit us? But it's been reported the likelihood of it impacting the moon is now 3.8%, which is more, but still nothing to get too worried about. And anyway, it's, 8 years away, so we can all calm down, I think. Also, almost half of the world's electricity was made without burning fossil fuels last year. This is good news. It's what a report from a think tank called Ember says. Solar power is the fastest growing energy source, but still with all of that, strangely, carbon dioxide emissions, which warm the planet, have risen to an all-time high. Experts think it's because of the hot weather and we've needed more power. So it's strange, isn't it? Good news and bad news in one, and it just reminds you that solving our climate crisis is not a simple job. It will take so many experts across the field figuring out what to move, what to improve, what to slow down. It's really, really tricky. And our final story this week, archaeologists have helped uncover one of the largest and most important Iron Age finds in the UK. That's what they're calling it. The Melsonby hoard was discovered in a field in North Yorkshire. There was a trove of more than 800 items there. Let's find out more with Keith Emerick from Historic England. Keith, thank you for joining us. Can you just clear up to start with? If it's Iron Age, when are we talking? How long ago?
We're talking about 2,000 years ago, and we're talking at about the time when just before the Romans came to Britain.
Wow. So this is before the Britain as we know it, before we were conquered by the Normans.
Yeah, well, the Iron Age starts kind of before the Romans get here, and then it continues into the period after the Romans get here.
So this was found by, I think, a dude with a metal detector, Keith. When people go out to try and find these hoards, do they have an inkling of what they're looking for and where things might be?
Usually, I mean, if you go to the seaside, you can often see people out with metal detectors who are looking for things that might have been lost when people go to the seaside. So people normally go out with an idea that there's something to be found. I mean, they look at maps, they look at old history books, they look at lots of things to kind of work out what might be of interest. And it could be any period that they're interested in.
And as I say, archaeologists have said this is one of the largest and most important Iron Age finds in the UK. Why is it so important?
Well, it's really important because a lot of what we know about the Iron Age, we know from archaeological excavations that have happened in the south of England. And so that has given one idea of what the Iron Age might have been like. But this is but this was recovered in the north of England. So it gives a very different idea of how wealthy the whole of Britain could have been in the Iron Age period. And, that there were very rich people, very powerful and influential people throughout the country, not just in the south of England. And it also tells us a lot about how things were made, the craftsmanship, the kind of the skill of people who made things. And it tells us about how complicated the society was, how complex it was, and with lots of different people doing lots of different things, lots of different skills, all kind of working together to make one Iron Age society.
So there was a trove of more than 800 items. What kind of things in there have given you more clues about how complex Iron Age society was?
So there are things like lance heads, spearheads, lots of equipment that have come from that would have been on horses. So all the sort of material that you see on horses, all the bridle bits, all of those things. There are things that would have been on chariots and on carts, lots of metal things that would have decorated chariots, and lots of things that would have helped the chariots and the carts move. So things like hubcaps, Iron Age hubcaps, and things like that, axle fittings, all of those things that you might see on a car or on a cart. We found the Iron Age equivalent of those things, but they're all got lots and lots of decoration, things with Mediterranean coral and glass, which is unusual. But also there are two big objects, two big cauldrons. One of them we think was for mixing wine, and the other is, we don't know, probably for cooking, but they're very, very richly decorated with fish, bunches of grapes and things like that, which is very, very unusual, very rare to find. You hardly ever find anything like that.
Paint the picture and set the scene for us, Keith. What would a typical, if there is such a thing as a typical home 2,000 years ago, when these kind of things would have been used, what would it have looked like? What would family life be back then?
Well, I mean, you had a society that had leaders in them and people who did work. Most people lived in what are called roundhouses. So there have been some excavations of roundhouses. So they're round in plan on the ground, and then they kind of go up to a conical shape at the roof. But people would have been kind of pretty much the same as they are today. So the wine cooler or the wine mixer thing is that the Romans thought it was very uncouth to drink wine as it was made from grapes. So they thought the civilized thing to do was to mix it with water. And so the thing is that we suspect that the people in the Iron Age community up here, the rich people who could afford to buy and have these things made for them, wanted to behave like the Romans did. And actually, if they were going to have wine, they were going to mix it with water as well to show how civilized they were and that they weren't barbarians. So people are very much the same. I mean, they lived in slightly different looking houses and things like that, and their lives were probably harder and more physical than they are today. They lived, they loved each other, and they wanted to be better. They wanted to be better than their neighbors. Lots of things that kind of made them exactly the same as us.
Well, there you go. A touch of history for the Fun Kids Science Weekly. Thank you so much, Keith Emerick, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now it's time for your questions. We'll get another expert on in just a sec. Remember, if you have anything sciencey that you want answered, something that's just scrambling your brain a little bit, you're wondering, can that really be true? Hang on, what are they saying now? Let me discover it for you. Now, do you remember a few weeks ago, I answered a question about whether robots would take over the world? And I know, because I get a few questions sent in about this, it's quite a pressing issue for you. We decided, weighing up everything, that probably no, robots aren't going to take over the world. Well, someone sent in a message for me. It was anonymous, but thank you so much for sending it. And they say they love the show, but they are still worried that the robots will really take over. Is it true? Will it happen? I want to prepare. Well, still, no. We don't think the robots are going to take over. If you are worried, if you do want to prepare, I don't know, maybe get on their good side. If you've got a smart speaker at home, perhaps you can be very nice to it. Say your please and your thank yous. Get on their good side before whatever might happen in the future. Let's get another one on. This is from Matty Scholes, who sent a message to me. Hey, Matty, thank you for listening. You want to know, can a microwave heat up something as hot as an oven can? Well, let's talk about how they work, because they heat things up very differently. An oven heats food using heat, using really hot, dry air. It's normally got a fan in the back that will press all that air around and it heats it from the outside in. It's dry heat. And this makes a more even cook. You get the crispiness with an oven. And it can reach 260 degrees Celsius. Now, a microwave uses, I think, smarter science to cook stuff. It uses electromagnetic waves. They get inside the food and they excite the bits of water in whatever's cooking. And those water molecules, they bump around, they are bursting with energy, and this makes a different type of heat that cooks from the outside in. Now that makes a cook less even, which is why the plate in your microwave spins round and round and round to try and spread all that energy everywhere. Also, very quickly, it's why metal sparks when it's in a microwave. So don't try this at home. Never put something metal in a microwave, but it kind of fizzes, it sparks. It can actually make an explosion. Because there's no water molecules in the metal, the energy, the waves don't get absorbed and instead bounces all over the place. And a microwave can reach temperatures of around 100 degrees Celsius, which is the boiling point of water. That makes sense. That's what's being heated up. So, Matty, no, a microwave cannot heat something up as hot as an oven can. Thank you for your question. I really love it when you send a voice note to me on the Free Fun Kids app or at funkidslive.com, and this one is from Nolan.
Hi, my name is Nolan, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and here's my question. What is the hottest thing in the galaxy?
Well, Nolan, thank you very much for your question. What's the hottest thing in the galaxy? Well, the galaxy's huge. And how on earth can we figure out how hot things are when they're light years away? Let's discover, shall we? Dr. Fabio Antonini joins us from Cardiff University. But Fabio, thank you so much for being there. So let's get straight to it. What's the hottest thing in our galaxy?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. So we should first maybe think about what hot means, right? So what is temperature? Temperature is really, it's a way to measure how fast tiny things inside something are moving, things so small you cannot even see, like atoms or molecules. When they move fast, that's hot. When they move slow, that means that something is cold. As an example, in your ice cream, then atoms are barely moving, so the ice cream is cold. And in your hot soup, atoms are really going around very fast, zooming around, and so that's hot. So astronomically speaking, there are many places that can be extremely hot. Some of the hottest things in the galaxy or in the universe are the core, the center of stars, where the nuclear reactions that make stars shine happen. And so if you consider a star like the sun, then at its center we have reactions that convert hydrogen into helium. That's why the star is shining bright. And the temperatures that are reached at the core of the sun are of the order of 10 million Celsius or Fahrenheit, whichever you prefer. And as stars progress in their life, nuclear reactions that happen in their core actually involve heavier and heavier elements. So we're going from hydrogen to helium and then to carbon and then even heavier elements. And through these stages, the temperatures that are required to ignite these reactions have to be higher and higher. So while at the moment, at the core, at the center of the sun, the temperature is, as I said before, about 10 million Celsius. And once helium will burn in the core of the sun, then the temperatures will be of the order of 100 million of Celsius. The most massive stars at the end of their life, they will end their life with spectacular explosions called supernovae. And during these explosions, temperatures can literally become astronomically high. And so we are talking about 10 to the 10 Kelvin, which means 1,000 times the temperature that is at the core of the sun. So 10 billion Celsius.
Ooh, well, there we go. We've sorted it, Nolan. That's the hottest thing in the galaxy. That's why it gets so hot. It's a temperature that you could probably not even imagine. Dr. Fabio Antonini, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
If you have anything sciencey that you want answered on the podcast, make sure you leave it as a voice note for me on the free Fun Kids app or at funkidslive.com. And it's time for this week's Dangerous Dan, where we look at the most weird, strange, odd, unique, and deadly things in the universe. And for this one, we are headed back to discover more about a mysterious illness that swept through the Middle Ages and made people dance. Dancing mania is also known as St. Vitus's dance. It was a bizarre and terrifying phenomenon that happened all throughout Europe around 500 years ago, and people would start dancing and not be able to stop. They would twitch, they would jerk, spin, swivel for days. They would almost be in a trance. Just imagine that. You would walk down the road doing your bits of shopping in the Middle Ages, going out, I don't know, to buy a leg of mutton or rabbit for your dinner, whatever you ate, and then you'd see someone dancing, they couldn't stop, and you would feel compelled to dance too. And it gets deadly. All that movement. People would sometimes collapse from exhaustion or a stroke, even heart failure. This would consume hundreds of people. In parts of the Roman Empire in 1518, it was infamous. People were reported as dancing for days, even dancing to their deaths. And here's the strangest part. Even today, we don't really know what happened. Because of the time way back then, people thought it was perhaps demonic possession, witchcraft. Maybe it was an infectious disease that led to these uncontrollable movements. Perhaps they were infected by ergot, which is what can happen when people eat a contaminated type of bread. They get infected by something in it, and it causes convulsions and hallucinations. Also, there's this weird thing called mass hysteria, where without knowing it, you start to believe something is real, and you're convincing yourself that is normal. It's like your brain takes over your body. And there is still some incidences today of dancing mania being symptoms of bigger illnesses. But we still don't really understand what's happening. And that mystery, that blend of what they thought was magic, but now we know is something maybe going on inside your brain. Maybe you've been infected by an illness. All of that together, it means dancing mania goes straight onto our Dangerous Dan list. For today's Battle of the Sciences, where we try to definitively discover and decide what is the greatest science in the history of the universe, we are looking at, well, you, I guess, and your body and how you're made, and what we've learned about how you're made through history too. We're talking anatomy today with Professor Michelle Spear from the University of Bristol. Michelle, thank you for being there. You have 1 minute to tell us why anatomy is the greatest science in the history of the world. That minute starts in 1, 2, 3, go!
So anatomy is absolutely the best science because it's you. It's the science of how your body works, from your brain to your toes, from your heart, your muscles, your bones, even all of the gooey bits in between. If you want to know how you breathe, how you blink, how you burp, that's anatomy. It's like being a detective, so you're constantly solving the mystery of you. Chemists have test tubes, physicists have forces, but anatomists, we've got guts, literally. We explore everything inside the body, figure out how it all connects together, and the best part, the very best part, is that you carry your science project around with you every day. So the next time your tummy rumbles or your foot falls asleep, you'll know that it's anatomy in action, and that's what makes it the coolest science of all.
I tell you what, Michelle, you crammed in a lot there. We covered a lot in under a minute, 50 seconds. And the big question then, if it's a science about our body and how it works and why it does what it does, well, us humans, we've been around for 200,000 years. Aren't all those questions already answered?
That's a really good question, and absolutely not. Because that's the wonderful thing. It's constantly changing. We're constantly making discoveries, and those discoveries inform us of other things. So if we use anatomy as an example, maybe a couple of 100 years ago, people thought they knew absolutely everything about anatomy and there was nothing more to discover. But these days, we've got really, really good imaging techniques, really sophisticated technology, and that's showing us a lot more. And it means that we need to go back into the lab and we need to start investigating again. We just don't know everything.
What else does someone who is involved in anatomy do day to day? Will they have a body in front of them and be chopping it up and having a look inside your leg, inside the veins? How are we discovering these things?
So there is dissection. That's a really helpful technique that we use. So again, sometimes if you want to find out how something works, you take it apart, and that's what we're doing. So, and we're very grateful that we have the opportunities to do that. So we do learn by dissection. We teach by dissection as well, because there's so much that comes through. Textbooks will tell you what structures are like in the majority of the population, but of course that could be 51%. And there's so much variation beyond that, because of course everybody is special and an individual. So we see lots of things. And so whilst we might look at structure and we might study function, sometimes you also have dysfunction or differing functions within that. So that broadens the range of what we can look at. Then when we tie in imaging and we start to think about things in a functional way, that brings all sorts of variables into what we're looking at. In that kind of discovery period, we've got lots that we can teach about, lots that we can tell kind of medical and science students about, but also lots that we can research ourselves. So that's what we do in our kind of day-to-day work.
You mentioned the murky past of anatomy, and I know that you are interested in the history of kind of how we've studied before and bodies and what we've used maybe to try and help us out. And I know that you've done some digging into mummies and mummification that might be quite exciting. Can you tell us more?
There's so much we could talk about with the history of anatomy, because it's a very long history to consider. So we do consider things like body snatchers and what happened in that area. The Victorians were kind of really keen on science and discovery, but also kind of showcasing it. And quite often there'd be, things that they'd bring out at an ornate dinner party, that kind of thing. And it was, the Victorians really, really were into their mummies. They liked unwrapping them. They wanted to see what was underneath. There's such a thing in history as a colour called mummy brown.
Ooh.
That was because they'd grind up the mummies that they were finding and putting them into paint. And so that was a nice shade of paint that people liked to employ. But what I was looking at specifically, people were, again, grinding up mummies. They were usually used ground. That seems to be the kind of common theme. And they were taking them as medicine.
Well, who was telling them that this was a good idea?
So it was actually a misinterpretation of an Arabic text where there were certain kind of tars and bitumen that were suggested could have been beneficial. And they got it wrong. They mistranslated it. They misunderstood the Arabic. So instead of taking a tar-like substance, they actually ground down the mummies and took them instead. But then they kind of applied all sorts of rationale over that to mean that it meant something to them, and they thought there was something about life force and so on, but really it was doing them no good at all.
We always finish, Michelle, with the same question, no matter what expert is telling us about whichever field. If I were to throw you forward decades, whenever it is, towards the end of your career in anatomy, what's the one thing that you would love to discover? What's the one question that you really want to answer?
What I would love to have achieved by the end of my career is to have told lots of people about anatomy, about the wonder of the human body, and for people to understand how they work themselves. And that's really quite important. And so that would be my mission.
Oh, one more quick cheeky one at the end. What's the most interesting part of the body for us to learn about?
Again, a tough one, because it's also wonderful. It's also wonderful. You've got bones that are stronger than reinforced concrete. You've got the fact that your heart beats 100,000 times a day. You've got the fact that your brain is more active at night than it is during the day. There is so much.
Well, you've made a brilliant case with so many questions. Professor Michelle Spear, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So what do you think? Does anatomy go on to our Battle of the Sciences leaderboard? I love a science that looks into your body and looks at the way what we've thought about who we are and how we work, how that's changed through thousands of years. We can learn a little bit more about that now with Professor Hallux, one of our favourite geniuses that we have on the show. This is from his Build a Body series, and he's taking a look at muscles and what makes them tick.
Hello again, biology buffs. I'm Nurse Nanobot, and it's time to join Professor Hallux again in his laboratory. Well, he calls it a laboratory. It looks like someone's driven an ice cream van into a perfume shop. What a mess! There are vats and vats of gloopy stuff, piles of flasks and beakers, and lots of very strange smelling steam. Brainbox Professor Hallux is attempting to build his very own human body, full of all those gaudy but very important bits. Let's find out what he is up to today.
Hi there and welcome back to my lab. Sorry about the mess and the smell. All in a good cause though. I'm building a body and today we're making the muscles. Those springy stringy bits that hold everything together. But they do a lot more than that though. You tell them, Nurse Nanobot, while I get those tendons out of the oven. I think they're done.
Phenomenal facts.
There are over 600 muscles in the body. They do everything from pumping blood to helping lift heavy things. Muscles are made from stretchy cells and fibres, which make them very versatile. There are 3 main sorts of muscles. Isn't that right, Professor?
Absolutely totally. I've 3 vats of muscles over in the corner. This medium-sized one contains smooth muscle. This smaller one contains cardiac muscle, while this very large and, dare I say it, slightly overflowing vat contains skeletal muscles. Give them the lowdown, nurse.
Smooth muscle is sometimes known as involuntary muscle. Can you guess why? That's right. We have no control over this type of muscle. Our brains tell these muscles what to do without us having to think about it. We use smooth muscle in our stomach and digestive system, where through contracting and relaxing, they move food on its journey through the body.
They're also handy if you're sick and need to throw up. Yuck! On a more positive note, I can also use smooth muscle in the eyes. The coloured bit of your eye called the iris is made of a smooth muscle which lets your pupils, that's the black hole in the middle, get bigger or smaller to control the light getting in.
Now, for the heart, the professor will need to use some cardiac muscle, the second sort of muscle. This thick muscle makes the heart contract to pump blood around the body and then relax to let it back in. Just like smooth muscle, cardiac muscle works all by itself without a thought from you. And over the average lifespan, the human heart will beat over 2.5 billion times.
Great, isn't it? Bodies are brilliant at doing stuff by themselves. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't help them. Get yourself off the chair and take lots of exercise to help give your heart a workout and make those muscles super strong. I see that you've already found the purpose of our third type of muscles, skeletal muscles. These are the ones that you would think of when we say muscle, the ones that show how strong you are and let you kick a football into the goal. These are the muscles that we control. Unless you want to, your leg won't bend to kick a ball, or your arm to pinch yourself. Ouch! Now, to attach lots of muscles to them bones.
Muscles are held to the bones with the help of tendons, cords of tough tissues that are attached so well that when you contract one of your muscles, the tendon and bone move along with it.
Horrible old anatomy fact.
Muscles might not sound as tough as bones, but they can be preserved for hundreds of years. Egyptian mummies from 5,000 years ago were embalmed with their hearts inside, and scientists are able to study them even today to see if their owners died of heart attacks.
That's right. And some bodies found in peat bogs in Europe are even older. The oldest found to date is around 8,000 years old and has its soft tissues preserved, although the bones have long since dissolved away, making a very wobbly, floppy person.
disgusting detail.
If you want to see one of your very own muscles, just stick out your tongue. Your tongue is a long, super flexible muscle, and it's the only one in your body that's only attached at one end. The other end pokes out and moves about so you can talk and eat.
Yuck! Odd to think that your tongue's a muscle. And talking of your face, you may not even think of it as a muscular body part. Your face has plenty of muscles. You can check them out next time you look in the mirror. Muscles in the face are attached to facial bones at one end and the skin of your face at the other. This allows you to contract your facial muscles just a tiny bit and make dozens of different kinds of faces. Even the smallest movement can turn a smile into a frown. You can raise your eyebrow to look surprised or wiggle your nose. Right. Now these muscles are just about ready, so let's zap it together and let's let the lightning loose. Brilliant! It's worked! My body has a wonderful collection of smooth, cardiac and skeletal muscles. Hee-hee! Looks a bit chilly though. You'll be needing a covering of skin next. Next time, I'll be covering up these muscles and bones with swathes of skin. Hope you can join me and Nurse Nanobot then. Bye for now.
You can find out more about the Professor and his body at the Fun Kids website, funkidslive.com.
Professor Hullock's Builds a Body is produced by Fun Kids with support from the Wellcome Trust.
That's Professor Hallux. You can get more of him and his brilliant episodes wherever you're listening to this podcast. Just search for him there. It's also on the free Fun Kids app and at funkidslive.com. If you have any science question that you would love me to answer and get a genius on to sort out for you, again, get to the app, get to our website. You can record a voice note to send to me. And Fun Kids, we are a children's radio station from the UK. Listen all around the country on the app at funkidslive.com too. And if you've got a smart speaker, be nice to it. It's a robot, we don't want them to take over, and then ask it to play Fun Kids.
Fun Kids Science Weekly with the book series Artisans, packed with magical powers and featuring an epic battle with the Sandman, talking cats and much, much more.